Hey guys, in this lesson I want to go over creating sheets and applying views to those sheets. Now obviously your title block, you might want to make that more customized, and you can always do that. Now if we want to take this scene, or even some of our renderings and apply them to sheets, well, that's what we're going to cover today. Most of the time, if I want to create a new sheet, what I'll do is go down to the project browser. I'll right-click on Sheets and select New Sheet. You might see a couple choices, usually 30 by 42 will show, but if you need something else, click Load, and you can find the size of title block that you need. Now remember, you can always create new ones for your firm, you can customize them based on your firm, or you can change any settings that you want. For instance, you might have an 11 by 17 title block, and you could use that for sketches. You might have a 36 by 48 sheet for your main office. So ultimately, whatever options you choose, you can apply that to your title block. But for this one, I'm just going to show you how to work in sheets. So we're just going to open one up, and this is your basic Autodesk sheet. And you can customize the family by clicking on Edit Family. Now, you can edit your family in multiple ways, but understanding how it really affects things is something we're going to cover more in the next tutorial. So to create views on this sheet, what you're going to want to do is actually click on the view that you want from the project browser. Now you don't want to double click on the view, because if you double click, that'll actually open the view. You want to single click just to access it. So I'll just go back into my sheet, A104, and I can just click and drag on another view. Now sometimes this view will have already been placed on other sheets. So keep in mind that if you want to have this existing plan on this sheet, you may have to either remove the view from the original sheet, or you can duplicate it. In this case, I'll just duplicate this view with detailing. So I'll just leave this one as existing copy 1, and then I'll close out some of these other views. And once I've done that, I can just drag this view right on. So if you were wondering what that view scale is about, keep in mind that it will also impact your view on the sheet. So if you set a 1/4 inch scale, well, you can see it expands it. You can play around with these scales to get the sizes right. So if that's too big, we can change it to 3/16. So you can make it bigger or smaller as you need, and you can also manipulate individual elements of the sheet. Now, one of my favorite things about Revit is how it gets referenced. So for example, these are the elevation markers in Revit, and I'm just going to move some of them around the sheet until I get them where I want. And for right now, I'll just hide the trees. And remember, whenever you hide something in Revit, you're only hiding it in that view. So I didn't hide the trees entirely or delete them from the project. They're only hidden on this view. So what you'll see is that certain things are now unreferenced on our sheet. So for now I'll deactivate this view, and activating and deactivating a view is very similar to when you go into a viewport in AutoCAD. Now for people who don't use AutoCAD, that's fine. Just be aware that when you double click on it, you're actually going into the viewport. Another thing to be aware of is that double clicking to go into something is actually a more recent option. It was introduced in 2014 and 15. In previous versions, you were forced to click on it and then select Activate View, or right-click and select Deactivate View. So in this case, I actually have a couple of views that are not referenced yet. So what I'll do is create a new sheet again, and I'll select E1 again for my sheet. And now that I've got this other sheet, I'm going to go ahead and drag on the views that weren't already referenced. So now we have the west side. Whoops, accidentally double-clicked into that. And my east side. Alright, that is perfect. And now, not only are these referenced, but if we go and look at it, east is 2, and it's on sheet A105. So now, if I go back into the sheet that had my floor plan, you can see the east view is 2, A105. And now, if I decide to change the name of that sheet by right-clicking on it and selecting Rename, if I change it to A106, for example, then my reference will change as well. So we no longer have to worry about re-referencing things or going through and making sure that all our tags align correctly on those sheets. And this applies to our section marks too. So if I go to sheet A103, which has marker 1, you'll see our section. So those are the essentials of how you drag on sheets, play with views, and how Revit references things. And the same is true of renderings. For instance, we saved our rendering from the last tutorial to the project, so we can drag it onto the sheet and end up including our rendering on our sheet, along with the different views. And with this, because it is an image file, you can always change the size just by clicking and dragging it. And then you can also right-click and deactivate it. Alright guys, thank you very much. That's the essentials of how to work with sheets. I'll see you on the next tutorial.